There is a night game going down this Saturday involving your Michigan Wolverines heading up for the Battle of the Little Brown Jug up there in Minneapolis. The game will be 7:30 p.m. Eastern from the new stadium, right? It's not the Metrodome anymore. It's not the big old one. They've got a nice new stadium, a little small stadium there at Minnesota. Michigan still, though, favored by 20 points over under 46. I look at some of these like deep statistical analytics things you see on Twitter, like statsowar.com and all that stuff. The analytics say that Michigan probably will struggle to score against Minnesota more than I think. I think the projected point total was like 27-7 in this one, which would be a little bit less than that 46, of course. So if you want to take the stats for what they're worth, the analytics, maybe you bet the under on this one. So 7:30 night game. We will have a post-game show. I'm just going to do it from home like I did this past week. Jack and I will be here Sunday morning again for the Overreaction Sunday video one more time. I want to ask you guys your score predictions, though. Make them down in the comments. I'm going to pin this comment right below the video, so just reply to that. Give me a score prediction. Michigan at Minnesota. Make sure you say who wins, and don't just say UM because both schools, Michigan and Minnesota, would be UM. So at least say Mich if you're trying to save some time, get rid of the again at the end. But in all reality, just write Michigan or Minnesota. I'm sure most people will be choosing Michigan, but we can't just take your word for it. And prediction has to be in before kickoff on Saturday, and you can't go back and edit your comment. We know all the shenanigans. We've seen it all before, so don't try and get one past us. First person, so go do it right now, who makes the correct score prediction wins $25. I'll reply to your correct score prediction, and I'll Venmo you. By the way, don't make like 40. I've seen someone like put a 40, 50, 60 score prediction. Just put one score prediction because if we see multiple ones, you're going to disqualify yourself. Get there right now. Make a score prediction. Win $25. Take a look at what this Minnesota Golden Gophers team has done under P.J. Fleck. What year is he, Jack? We said last week. Isn't he like his 6th or 7th year already there at Minnesota? I think it's his 7th year, which is kind of crazy to think about because it just seems like yesterday P.J. Fleck was at Western Michigan rowing the boat, hot young coach, and all of a sudden he's been there at Minnesota for a while. They've had some good years, they've had 9-win here and there. They've also had some down years. I think this one is trending more towards a down year. They're 3-2 in the season. Got that win. They just looked brutal against Nebraska, right? You saw how dominant Michigan was against Nebraska in that opener on a Thursday night. Minnesota needed a comeback and really needed a couple miracle plays to get that win, 13-10 at home to start the season. Beat it in Eastern Michigan, lost to North Carolina where they completely dominated, waxed, and went off the field. Then they gave up a 21-point fourth quarter lead, lost in overtime to Northwestern, got back in the winning category against Louisiana this past week. But what does that really tell us about this team? The only player that I'm worried about, folks, is this freshman sensation, ironically from the state of Michigan. And I'm not going to take credit like I know anything about him from his recruiting days, but true freshman, was up there with Adrian Peterson, the three-game run I'll show you in a second, as like the best September 3-game run in college football history, right? 3-star freshman Darius Taylor from the state of Michigan, from right outside Detroit, was leading the NCAA in rushing after 4 games, but got hurt towards the end of the 4th game, that game against Northwestern, missed last week's game against Louisiana. No update as of now, filming here on Wednesday, when he or if he will be ready for the game against Michigan on Saturday. So if he plays, something to worry about, right? They've got him. They've got a receiver that have put up some really big numbers so far this year, leading the NCAA in rushing after 4 games. And by the way, he had like, I think it was, I should pull up the exact number. He had like 3 or 4 yards rushing in the first game in total, right? So first game, Nebraska, 1 carry for 3 yards. But still, he was leading the NCAA in rushing after 4 games because, as you see on screen there, 198 against Northwestern. Prior to that, 138 and 193, right, on 31, 22, 33 carries. I mean, he's getting 6.4, 6.3, 5.8 yards per carry. Also catches the ball a little bit right now. He's got 6 catches on the year, 3, 1, and 2 in that same 3-game run. So if Darius Taylor plays, keep an eye out for him. He can certainly make plays and move the numbers. Was leading the NCAA in rushing, but didn't play last week. I'm not sure if we'll know till game time, but lower leg injury sounds like more than a 1-week thing. So I'm going to guess he doesn't play, but no inside information on that. Leading off on the Michigan Wolverines. Okay, this Michigan football team, a lot of the same stories. This is one of the most star-studded Michigan football teams coming into a season that maybe of all time, right? JJ McCarthy, you're 2 deep at running back. You've got 2 established multi-year starting receivers. You've got an all-star offensive line, multiple tight ends. You got defensive returning guys at every single level. I mean, hell, the defensive line right now, the two deep defensive line is just absolutely insane. I was looking at the returning starters for next year. I mean, gosh, you could have out of the top 8 right there in the defensive line, you might have 7 of them, right? Maybe Chris Jenkins is the only one that potentially goes pro, isn't back with his team after this year. Blake Corum, though, is my story for this week. Looking forward to where he's thinking about where he's at historically. He is coming up on some of the all-time leading rushers in Michigan football history when it comes to touchdowns. 1 touchdown. You see him there in the number 6 spot. Now, Willie Heston score was way back in the 1900s. We're talking about 120 years ago. Okay, cool, 72 touchdowns. Maybe we shouldn't count him, but Michigan still does, so we will. The A-Train, number 2 in that list, 55 touchdowns. Tyrone Wheatley with 47. Denard Robinson, not a running back at the quarterback position, a little running back at the end of his career in 2012 after his injury, 42. And then right behind him, Mike Hart, Michigan's all-time leading rusher for yards, number 5 in touchdowns. Blake Corum, 1 more touchdown. He will meet his running backs coach, Mike Hart, at 41 for number 5 on the list. And I really think it's possible that he ends up number 3 behind the A-Train. There's an outside chance, right? An outside chance if Michigan made it all the way to the national title game and he had a couple of those 4 and 5 touchdown games like he's had as a Michigan Wolverine, that Blake Corum could catch the A-Train to be the modern touchdown leader in Michigan football history from a rushing perspective. Right now, he is number 1 in the country in a 3-way tie with Rasheen Ali and with Marcus Carroll, Ali from Marshall, and Carroll from the vaunted Georgia State football program with 9 rushing touchdowns so far this year. Also, Roman Wilson leading the country, tied for the lead with 8 receiving touchdowns. So Michigan putting up some numbers from touchdowns perspective for their top skill position players. Mike Hart was asked yesterday about Blake Corum catching him in the all-time Michigan touchdown number, 1 back. He said, "Oh yeah, 1 touchdown behind me?" And the quote that I just like right there, "No more touchdowns for Blake." He's putting an end to it. No more touchdowns for Blake per Mike Hart. Obviously, clearly joking. He wants to keep his spot at number 5 all-time for Michigan football from a touchdowns perspective at the running back position. So good luck to Blake Corum. Beat your coach and then, keep getting those touchdowns all the way through the national championship game. I bet he'll end up with like 51, 52 touchdowns as he wraps up his career after this 4th year in Ann Arbor. All right, asked this question on Twitter yesterday. I was shocked by the answer, right? I didn't even include number 4 on this list. I did not even include number 4 on this list on Twitter, but I will here on YouTube. So the question was, Michigan's best big 3. Let's just keep it in the modern era, 25 years. Henny, Hart, Manningham. 2005, 6, and 7, they were all a combo, although Manningham really wasn't a superstar in 2005, kind of coming on as a true freshman. John Navarre, Braylon Edwards, and Chris Perry. Now, why is that one interesting, right? That was last place by a big distance on Twitter. I'll talk more about them here in a second. JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, and Roman Wilson as a Michigan football big 3 trio. And then you go back to, you could do Brady in 99 or Henson. I chose Henson because I felt like they had a little better offense that year. In 2000, Drew Henson, A-Train Anthony Thomas, or David Terrell. Mull on that one for a second. Go down in the comments. We'll come back to it in a second. But first, I did want to tell you about Prize Picks. I've been using Prize Picks way too much. Look at my phone. I use Twitter. I use YouTube. I've been using Prize Picks hours every single week, the ultimate daily fantasy sports platform that takes your passion for sports to the next level. I got to win a Monday Night Football, right? I picked less yards for Daniel Jones. I picked less yards than they predicted for Darren Waller. And I picked more from Michigan football legend Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks. This week, I'm going less on Dak Prescott of 232.5, more for Bijan Robinson, 81.5, more for Nico Collins, 52.5 yards receiving, and less for DeAndre Hopkins, 57.5 yards receiving. That's how simple Prize Picks is. This is what you can win. 4 games, if I get 4 picks right there, more or less on the yards. It's that simple. You're not going against, algorithms and fantasy sports experts. You just make those picks, and you see, I put up $5 right there. I'm getting 10x my money. The one I made on Monday Night Football, 3 players, got them all right. 5 won me 25. This one, 5 is going to win me 50. What sets Prize Picks apart? Like I said, it's the simplicity and the flexibility of the game. You're not going up against these expert players. You just simply pick more or less based on the yards that players are listed there, predicted by Prize Picks. You can do it for college as well. College is usually up not till later in the week, Thursday or Friday, so check back with Prize Picks later in the week. go to see what you can do on the Michigan football team this weekend. I had a lot of fun doing that last week, although I did not win with my predictions for Donovan Edwards and JJ McCarthy. You're going up to 25 times your money. Get your first deposit match. This is the key. First deposit match up to $100. You put 100 in, you got another 100. You're playing Prize Picks. I've never been a daily fantasy guy. Prize Picks has completely changed the game for me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. You see it at the bottom of the screen. Type it in your browser, get the app, and use promo code CLNS. CLNS. It's down in the comments in the description as well when you make your first deposit for up to a $100 deposit match. Go back to that question. I kind of feel like the Navarre, because he was kind of a boring, stiff, like nerdy-looking guy, but he's right up there. Him and Chad Henne basically own the Michigan record book for career statistics and even some single-season statistics, right? John Navarre's single-season passing yards. I think they're getting overlooked, right? This season, the season they all played together as the starters, it was 02 and 03. Braylon was kind of developing in 02. Perry wasn't really what he became. 03, Big Ten champs, right? Chris Perry wins the Doak Walker Award. Braylon Edwards was an All-American, like second-team All-American that year. Navarre and Perry leave. Braylon comes back the next year with the true freshman Chad Henne. He wins the Blitnikoff. So you got two national award winners out of those three guys. So that might be it for me, those three. Go back and show you the numbers, the trios. Best big three last 25 years for Michigan. Henne, Hart, Manningham, type 1. JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, the current batch, type 2. If it's John Navarre, Braylon Edwards, and Chris Perry, 2003, 2002, type 3. And if you think it is the Henson, A-Train, David Terrell combo from the 2000 season, go ahead and give me a 4 down in the comments. And make your case why. Why do you think that those guys should be the best big three for Michigan? Take a look at my new Heisman Trophy power rankings. I've actually had to put a lot of thought into this, right? I put a lot of thought in every single week and put this out on Monday or Tuesday every single week on Twitter. I've got Caleb Williams. I've been a little bit of a Caleb Williams hater because I think the system he plays in, gets some, stats that maybe aren't deserved. But he's still number one. I think he's on pace as of right now. I mean, if they can go 12-1, 11-1 in the regular season and not lose a couple games, and he plays bad, I think he's on pace to win a second Heisman because he's playing better this year than he did last year when he actually did win the Heisman. Bo Nix has got Oregon humming. What a turnaround for him. Kind of run out of Auburn a couple years ago. Quinn Ewers, if they blow out Oklahoma and he shines this week, he could pop up to like a co-number one with Caleb Williams. Michael Penix had a tough game last week. Dylan Gabriel, same as Quinn Ewers. If he shows out and gets a big win against Texas, he could pop up in the top 2 or 3. Cam Ward didn't play last week. He still put up good numbers. Ray Davis, right? Dropped like 250 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns against Florida. I got JJ McCarthy back in my top 10 at number 8. Brock Bowers at Georgia. He really won them that game, especially in the fourth quarter. And then Jordan Travis didn't play last week. He's kind of dropped down from 6 or 7 last week down to number 10. That's my Heisman Trophy top 10 after 5 weeks of the season. If you guys have yet to do so, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're sitting at 27,886 subscribers. We added 957. Quite a bit of those, about 400 or 500 of them or so, were during our two watch parties. The opening game against ECU and then the night game against Bowling Green. So we got some wood to chop still as we're approaching 28,000 subscribers. The link, as always, you can go to youtube.com/Michigan TV. Of course, send it to your friends, etc., etc. But if you haven't subscribed yet, videos every day. Click that subscribe button right below the video. Help us grow. Help us hit that next milestone of 28,000 subscribers. My eyes this week are on JJ McCarthy. Had he not thrown 3 interceptions versus Bowling Green, I do think that the narrative would be a little more positive. Very positive right now on forum. Very positive across the country. But people still should know, 3 interceptions versus Bowling Green. 3 interceptions versus Bowling Green. 2 versus TCU. Like, that's all the haters want to talk about when it comes to JJ McCarthy. But when you look at the stats all time for Michigan, we showed you the Blake Corum stuff. JJ McCarthy, over these next 7 regular season games, a Big Ten championship game, college football playoff, etc., he can set a new passing standard at Michigan if they let JJ cook. Because frankly, the numbers aren't huge so far this year. But if you took away those 3 interceptions, I'd feel a little bit better, right? If you had like a 10-1 interception to touchdown ratio. He's only averaging just over 200 yards per game passing, right, through 5 games. But I think that completion percentage, he's up there, number 1 in the country in quarterback rating, QBR. And Pro Football Focus, Jack, I don't know if you saw this, put out a new mock draft a couple days ago. They got JJ going number 5 overall. The 3rd quarterback taken, but behind Drake May, behind Caleb Williams, going 5 to the Minnesota Vikings. So let's see what he does this Saturday. Before I dive deeper into JJ McCarthy, I'll ask you guys the question. How many passing touchdowns, knowing he's got 10 now through 5 games, predict it based on how far you think Michigan's going to go. So if you think it's going to be all the way to the national championship game, like I do, based on 15 games, how many touchdown passes will J.J. McCarthy finish with in this 2023 season? 10 through the air right now, 1 on the ground. What's he going for here, right? Michigan's got one of the smallest numbers in all of college football when it comes to single-season touchdown records. It's a tie between Elvis Grbac, the year that his redshirt junior year in 1991, Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver in Desmond Howard. Okay, 25. That's 32 years ago, folks. And then Chad Henne came in as a true freshman with just a bevy of wide receivers, Braylon Edwards, Jason Avant, Steve Breston in 2004, and he gets 25 as well, right? But Henne never matched his two true freshman numbers there in 2004. John Navarre in 03, 24. Chad Henne, again, his second year, sophomore year, kind of a disastrous year for Michigan, a lot of injuries, 23. Shea Patterson tied that in 2019. Shea got up there because he kind of threw a 2-game stretch, like 9 touchdowns. I think it was Michigan State and Maryland or Michigan State and Indiana. It was like a 5-touchdown, a 4-touchdown banger leading into the Ohio State game. Just got him up to 23. So Michigan, on an average year in college football, 40 players throw more than 25 touchdowns. So the fact that that's Michigan's all-time record, I think, is still kind of one of the most perplexing things in all of college football record book. I think J.J. McCarthy needs a breakout game, right? Just to make touchdown passes more the thing. Michigan still this season has relied on get inside the 10-yard line. It's Blake Corum. It's Blake Corum. It's Blake Corum. That's fine, okay? He's got his 9 touchdowns. He's leading college football. But I would really like to see J.J. break out with a 4-touchdown game, right? Whether it's Minnesota, the game after that, Indiana, hell, maybe Michigan State. Just like certain quarterbacks have. Jake Rudock threw a 6-touchdown game. Shea Patterson has 5-touchdown games. So Jim Harbaugh certainly has the offensive philosophy and the ability to do it. Maybe it's just because Michigan's running backs are so good that J.J. McCarthy has not cooked when it comes to passing. Only one 4-touchdown game. That was against Ohio State, 3 through the air and 1 on the ground. Take a look at his stats through 5 starts. Now, this isn't through 5 games. I backed out the stats in the opener last year against Colorado State when Cade McNamara got the start. So through 5 starts, so basically through the first 6 games, we're only counting the starts in 2022, 90 of 116. So more completions, right? More completions last year than he does this year. More attempts last year than he has this year. Those were blowout games, right? Those are 59-10. Those are 51-7. So it's not like they're, different competition. 3 scrub teams, only 2 counted this for last year. So kind of perplexing, still throwing at a very high percentage. JJ 79%. Well, he was right there after 5 starts last year. 1 more touchdown this year and those 3 interceptions. So you can make an argument that JJ's having the exact same year that he did last year as a first-time starter, his 2nd through 6 games last year, 2 being out of conference, then 3 of those from last year for JJ's first 5 starts were actually Big Ten games. So maybe he stays in the game a little longer, more opportunities in those ones. One of them last year was a 300-plus yard performance for McCarthy where he threw the ball, north of 30 times. So, all right, better competition. Maybe you start throwing the ball a little more. A 4-touchdown, 300-plus yard game. Let's say he goes out, does it against Minnesota. Michigan dominates a Big Ten opponent on the road for the 2nd straight week in a row. Let's say JJ goes 25 of 30, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns. If he puts those numbers up, looking forward to Indiana, Michigan State, bye week, Purdue. You could be sitting there as early as next week, but definitely going into that Penn State game on November 11th thinking that, hey, J.J. McCarthy was within striking distance of all these Michigan single-season records, yards, touchdown passes, but also he could be up there number 1, 2, 3 in the Heisman Trophy list with a chance to win it if he puts up these numbers with a win at Penn State and then, of course, against Ohio State. Next up on the show, what's going on with the Donovan Edwards? Not going to lie, I was comparing him to Reggie Bush this offseason. If you watch the show in the offseason, you'd be like, yeah, you were, James. You were. You misled me, you son of a bitch. Yeah, I'm sorry, okay? I misled my son. There's no more disappointment in the Yoder family over the month of September than my hype of Donovan Edwards versus my son's expectations because he's not getting – I'm telling him he can get some ice cream or get a toy. If the Don scores a touchdown, he's got his Don shirts. It's not happening. Edwards addressed it in the media today, okay? He got asked about his slow start. He says, I know that I get bashed a little bit, and the critics are the critics, and James Yoder is a real son of a bitch. No, he didn't say that. Who cares? But at the end of the day, I know what I can improve on. I know what I'm doing well, and that's all that I continue to do is be me, not get down on myself, and just keep my head up and continue to do are continue to work. So I'm asking your questions. What's going on with the Don? Is it him? Is it the scheme? They get him on the field. He had, 14 carries last week. He's just not getting the yards, folks. He's only got 150-some yards rushing, got 100 yards receiving, 12 catches. So he's out there. He's playing. It's the same player. I haven't even heard a whisper of an injury. So is it a mental thing? I've seen people in the comments on this show. I've certainly seen it on Twitter. People saying that he got too big of a head. Donovan Edwards got too big of a head. He thought those games against Ohio State, that was just the norm for him. Scoring touchdowns against Purdue, 100-plus yards against TCU, making the college football playoff. Was that the norm from him? Did he get his head too big for his britches? 157 yards rushing, 103 yards receiving. Folks, just do the math there. Just do the math. That is 31.4 yards rushing per game. 31.4 for Donovan Edwards, right? I was saying him and Blake Corum could be the best running back combo this century. 103 yards receiving, so he's getting past his 12 catches, but only 20, not even 21 yards a game receiving. It's kind of surprising. This is maybe the most surprising, right? Michigan had 11 low impact, is what some of these analytics services call it, carries, rushes, handoffs against Nebraska. 11 of them, 3 yards or less. Donovan Edwards had 8 of those 11 rushes under 3 yards to Nebraska. That's surprising. He's going down on first hit. He's not seeing the hole. Maybe that was the key to Michigan's victory. Maybe Blake Corum doesn't have the patience and hit those holes. They'll just need that little crease. Boom, 75 yards. Boom, 85 yards. The Don had it, but those creases aren't showing up as much this year as they did last year. I'm not sure. But it's certainly one of the more surprising things I can ever remember. Expectations versus reality after 5 games for a Michigan football player. Donovan Edwards kind of let us all down. We're still with you there, Don. But I would love to see some big plays because it's just like this. We only get a certain amount of time with these college football players. So you just don't want to waste games, right? I want to see Donovan Edwards score 75-yard touchdowns all damn day. It's so exciting. He's so fast. He looks so natural doing it. Let's get some big plays here, the Don. I am a little bit concerned with the Don. I want to ask you guys, how concerned are you with Edwards' play so far this season through 5 games? Scale of 1 through 10. Let me know down in the comments. 1 being you're not concerned at all. 10 being you're very concerned. And we're going to talk about this in the show later in the week. A mailbag is he going to be on this team next year? Can Edwards even make a claim? I mean, unless he blows up his last 7, 8, 9 games of the season, 10 games, sure. But at this point, he's not draftable. He's not getting drafted in the first 5 rounds, putting up the production that he's done so far. My concern right now, folks, is a 7 out of 10 on the scale. I'm concerned because I got to be proved wrong at this point, right? I was 1 game aberration. Oh, they're not using him right 2 games. Oh, okay, it's a crappy opponent in 3 games. But now we're a couple games into the Big Ten season, still putting up very paltry numbers. 8 of Michigan's 11 low-impact runs were from the Don this past week. So my concern level is 7 of 10. Let me know what yours is down in the comments. By the way, make sure you guys are using PrizePicks, prizepicks.com/CLNS. I can't just tell you what. I'm not BSing you at all. I wouldn't promote it as heavily, not only in this show with my picks, but also on Twitter, etc. if I didn't like it. Really enjoyed using it. Go get started. Get that $100 deposit match. Use promo code CLNS. We will see you guys with another video on Thursday. On Friday, we even have a video for you on Saturday leading into the game. Little morning preview coming up on Saturday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. So I see you tomorrow. Go Blue.